The words "music maker revolution." That's exciting. That sounds exciting. What is the music maker revolution?
Okay, so I've been doing. I've been involved with when I started in I think it was like 89. I graduated high school, and that's 1989, not 1889. So when I graduated high school, I got a job as a intern at a recording studio in Northern Virginia, and I was completely just immediately enamored with like the whole recording process. And I knew for like it was like written in the stars, I guess, that I was going to own a recording studio one day. And I've actually over the years attempted to do what I'm doing now like 4 times. And so during that process, like I said, I played in bands, I've managed artists, I've helped develop artists, I've been a songwriter, producer, et cetera, et cetera. And
Right.
so I've seen this 30-year arc of how, I remember when they talk about in the music industry. And I know for your listeners, like this isn't the usual subject matter that you cover on your show, but I really feel like there's people will relate to this because we've seen so much of this in pop culture, like recently. This is going on, like the stuff that I'm talking about. So it's like
the revolution.
Yeah, the revolution. Like, so you see all the, I've seen the days of analog tape and analog recording and actually working in studios where we were recording to analog tape, and that would be pressed onto vinyl and CDs and all that. And so then fast forward to digital recording and downloads, and
right. I mean, and here's my SoundCloud link.
Exactly. And I have seen the entire, going back to that guy Andy Ziff. We were doing in 2004, 2005, we were doing like these download cards that we would basically sell at shows with a t-shirt. And it was really like, it wasn't before people were doing that, but we were like, okay, well, the CD's dead, so what's next? It's going to be these downloads, and we're going to do. And Andy and I did a lot of like really interesting. I mean, we had crowdfunded his entire second album before, like 3 years before Kickstarter was even a thing. So we had
How did you manage the outreach?
It was kind of old fashioned, but we were going, knocking on the doors of fans essentially, right? So we were going to all of our fans. We'd either email them, we talked to some investors, we talked to some, basically friends, family, fans, whoever we could get to. And some people gave $3, some people gave more, but it wasn't until a couple of years later that we found out that this was called crowdfunding. We were just using his fan base. We did this thing called the $3 or the $2 tour, and it was basically, the tickets were, it was $2 at the show. So wherever he played, it was $2. But then we would also ask fans of, his fans online, like at the time, I believe it was right at the beginning of, it was MySpace essentially. So we'd ask people on MySpace, hey, will you throw in $2 to help fund this tour? And so people, we not only did we get $2 at each of the shows from people that were showing up, but we were also getting people, just because they like the idea, throwing in $2 to support this guy to go out and tour around,
right? Because it's a new idea.
It's a new idea, and I've always been pretty good at jumping in. I realize I haven't answered your music maker question yet, but I'm going to get to it.
I feel like we're getting there.
It's a little backstory for the, this is the theater of the mind. I'm painting a picture for the audience.
Absolutely. It's vivid.
So basically, we were doing all this stuff before we were noticing the trends. We were selling these download cards. We were crowdfunding before crowdfunding was a thing. We were really being innovative. But the problem was the market wasn't developed at that point. We're talking 2007, 2008 at this point.
Right.
And so Instagram wasn't a thing. Spotify wasn't a thing. Like all of these things that we kind of take for granted in 2018, these are still only, 6 or 7. They're not that old, So,
Right.
but I have seen the entire, I would say from LP, vinyl and CDs all the way to people like these Instagram stories with the Spotify link. We're trying to figure out ways to use all of that. And so during this process over the last couple of years, as I knew that I was either going to buy or build a recording studio, I I started noticing, wow, this might be the most exciting time I've ever seen in music, because it is no longer owned by these big corporations saying, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's literally in the hands of the people. And if somebody loves what you're like, if let's say for instance you play banjo with like a beatbox or something like that,
That's
right?
my dream.
Right. Who it would be everybody's dream. I think in the audience right now, everyone's saying, I would go and see that. But I mean, so
I hope so.
so let's say that that's your deal, right? Well,
Right.
it used to be that you would take that to a record company, and unless they could instantly see the hit potential of that, there's no way that anybody's going to invest hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars to put you on tour and to develop that act or that brand or whatever you want to call it into a viable product, because it's just too risky. They're going to go with the thing that is easy, that is tried and true, and all of that, right?
Right.
So when I say music maker revolution, you start looking at, this isn't just people making music uh, per se. Like, this isn't just about hip hop or EDM or singer songwriters or bands. This goes further than that. This goes into the people that are making custom instruments for said bands, rappers, whatever. I mean, so it's like, and then beyond that, it's like there's people making custom parts for the custom guitar makers.
Right. And
So it's like, I find that fascinating. I find this level of this granular level of, again, like that whole maker movement and the whole musician movement kind of being melded together, and I think it's really amazing.